Welcome back to another episode of the Get Back Coach, presented by Apollo Media. And today, joining Jay and I, a very special guest, a longtime guest, recurring guest, friend of the show, Joey Pop, aka Joey Props. Joe, how we doing, man?
Yeah, I'm excited. College football is right around the corner. I've been excited to hop on and talk ball with you guys all day. So I'm ready to roll. I'm just glad to be here.
It's like a nice little tradition. It's like, college football is getting near when I'm sending out the text to you being like, hey man, gonna come on the show this time around, and it's always a resounding yes. So happy to have you on.
It's now, and then it'll be bowl season again.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I'll see you guys in December after that.
Who knows? Maybe Michigan State will go on a run this year, and then we'll have you on in between.
Not with their schedule, they're not. But
big headlines coming out from this weekend. Again, still all allegedly. Okay, nothing concrete. A couple reports about Connor Stallions, Michigan videotaping, scouting illegally saga. Sharon Moore may or may not have deleted 58 text messages, deleting hard drives, things of that nature. Jay, what was the meme or the meme that you shared to our group? Was the Batman one?
Yeah. I'm going to break out the Bane impression, see if I can do this. So basically the tweet was that when Jim Harbaugh left for the Chargers and Sharon Moore stayed to take the head coaching job, there's a scene in the plane in the beginning of The Dark Knight Rises where basically one of Bane's henchmen has to be left behind. And he says to him, "They expect one of us in the wreckage, brother."
That was so.
That was good.
That was the tweet. I had to break that out, right?
Yeah, that was great.
That was really good.
It does feel like Harbaugh leaves, and anyone who stayed was going to be a potential subject to get hit with this. I don't think they're going to take away the national title from them because they were being punished, before that. I do believe still, technically, they did win the national title fair and square. However, the last 2 years, the 2 years prior, the Big Ten championships, there's a possibility we might be taking those away. Maybe.
They're going to lose an Ohio State win or two, I think.
Yeah. With one of those. And like I said, maybe a Big Ten championship. Joe, I know you are a big fan of the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, right.
Well, what is your take on this? Because I'm actually been waiting to ask you this all day.
So I'll preference this for anybody listening who doesn't know anything about me. I'm a Michigan State fan. Also, I was sick this past weekend. That's why I sound kind of like this. I don't normally sound like this, so excuse that. I am a Michigan State fan. Bias aside, I have a couple thoughts. One, I don't think, and this is big of me, okay? I don't think anything that Connor Stallions did affected Michigan's championship last year. So even if they wanted to take the championship away, if I'm a Michigan fan, I don't care because I saw the championship and I still think that they were the better team. And I think that they would have won the championship last year no matter what. Mm-hmm. What I don't understand is why even do it? Like when that video comes out of him on the sideline of Central Michigan with the glasses on, the blue light comes on, that to me, and I think you should be allowed to steal people's signs. You should change your signs, make it hard, but people should be allowed to steal them. Not to the point though where a guy is wearing another team's coach uniform on the sideline of a game versus a rival. Like that's way over the line. So they got to do something to figure out what to do. But at the end of the day, I don't think it really affected anything. Where I don't want to say upset, but where I get annoyed is Jim Harbaugh is a scumbag of the highest order. Because for him to even come out today and just be like, no stealing, no lying, no cheating, I had nothing to do with that. You're such a liar. Obviously you all had something to do with it. And to watch Moore, he's going to die on the sword for this. He basically is just a fall guy for this. And Jim Harbaugh is going to wash his hands of it. If Harbaugh would have came out today and just said, listen, I'm the coach of the Chargers, I'm not talking about that, and just did the coach talk, fine. But for you to get up on your high horse and do this, you did it every year when you're at Michigan. You win 2 games, and you're like, you know what? I think I might go to the NFL. Pay me more money. He's a scumbag of the highest order. I hate him with every fiber of my being. I hope nothing good happens to that university or that man ever again. Go Chiefs. Okay? That's how I feel.
That was wonderful. Very big of you, by the way.
Very big of me.
As the only Chargers fan in existence, I'm kind of hurt, but that's okay. I do wonder how Connor Stalions even got onto the sideline at Central Michigan.
Well, I think that's going to come out in the documentary. And I think a part of why this is happening, coming out right now, I think is because in the documentary, there's going to be more information that's going to come out of just how that happened and what took place there. But at the end of the day, like this, it's such a ridiculous lie. We had nothing to, of course you did. Like, shut up, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I hate them all.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing. You know what? No, I'm not going to go down that route. I'm not going. I'm trying to be big too. I'm
That's
trying
bad
to be
podcasting.
Big. It is. It is. There. It's terrible podcasting. I'm agreeing with Joe. Okay, where I wish Harbaugh just would have said, "Hey, I'm focused on the Chargers," and that's. But now, like you said, being on the high horse, it's kind of like, oh, enough of it. But no, it. Do you guys think Sherrone Moore might? You think this might lead to his termination?
So I think Sherrone Moore was kind of an in-between guy anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think this is one of those situations where the guy that followed Harbaugh was kind of doomed from the start. But I think this just kind of hastens the falling on the sword, as it was said earlier. I just think, this, like, somebody's going to take the fall for it, and it feels like it's going to be Sherrone. Like, it feels like they're already setting that up in the media for him to be the fall guy. So, yeah, just a matter of time there.
Yeah. Joe, pretty much the same.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's what they're going to do. Or they're going to come out, they're going to suspend him for the first 3 games like they did with Harbaugh. Like, ooh, he can't coach for Hawaii at home. Oh, my gosh, what a punishment. Like, it's insane.
They do have Texas this year, though.
That's true. That is true. But what they did, I mean, even that, what they did with Harbaugh last year of like Hawaii, what was it? Hawaii, Akron, and like Central Michigan or something. It's like, oh, my God.
Well, he didn't coach the Penn State game either. But the thing is, he's still at practice. And, like, you don't think they're not having – like, he's still running the show.
Yeah.
Suspend him for a game. Like, he's still running the show.
You know what they should have done is had Harbaugh posted up in a hospital bed somewhere like Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there were the rumors – or not the rumors, but the joke / rumors were that he would be posted on Mount Nittany with his binoculars in the distance with a telescope, like watching the game, or that he would be seen walking the trails during the game or something like that. But
the beautiful mountains of Pennsylvania.
Yes. I don't know. It's coming from Michigan. It's going to happen. I think maybe some scholarship reductions, and probably Sherrone Moore's firing. Basically, anyone who was on staff there will be gone, which Jay made this point, and I think it's true. Sherrone Moore was probably going to be the guy before the guy anyway. He was going to keep everything intact. And then when you're ready to hire the big name, or when you think it's time to move on, then you can get it. I don't think Sherrone Moore, even though as much as he'd like to be the man forever, I don't think that was ever going to be the case.
Yeah, I agree. And what's really going to bother me is that they're going to fire him probably at the end of the season or something and walk away from it. And then they're going to get like Lance Leipold or like somebody like amazing coach. And it's just going to bother the piss out of me.
Yeah, that's probably what's happening.
Yeah, it's my nightmare.
So I do have to address this because of our Penn State listeners, because we do have a decent Penn State following. Big news at the start of camp. Jameel Lyons and Kevion Keys were said to have been on interim suspension by the university. This was not even a James Franklin saying this in a press conference. This was a representative from the university before press conferences saying Jameel Lyons and Kevion Keys are on interim suspension. And then 3 days later, they were no longer on the roster. And they, as far as I know, at least Jameel Lyons is no longer enrolled at Penn State. I do not want to start rumors. However, from the looks of this does not look good. This looks like it is most likely something criminal. I will not get into specifics and I will not speculate on the severity of it. But from what it looks like, it is criminal. And that is why not James Franklin, but a representative from the university says we are not to comment on these two players. If you're wondering who these two players are, Kevon Keys was a 4-star that Penn State ended up getting from North Carolina, or he was once, I think, committed to North Carolina and then to Penn State. Outside linebacker, I don't know if he was redshirted last year, but he was supposed to be a contributor more next year, but a depth guy. Jameel Lyons, on a lot of Penn State podcasts, they said Jameel Lyons was going to be like second string and like really having a coming out party this year. He's a Philly guy. Missing Jameel Lyons is going to be huge. Or I think it's a loss that's going to be felt. But hate to see these players go. However, if this does come out, it is a criminal matter, due process and everything. But I think Penn State is getting ahead of the 8 ball here with this one. Don't know if you guys want to comment anything else on it, because
I don't really have anything to add there. I mean, just take care of business.
Yep. And I think that's what Penn State's doing. That's why I think for them to not be on roster, I have a feeling it's something that they're like, hey, we can't even have this. Even if it is a criminal case or whatever, even if you're innocent, like we can't do this. Because
take notes, Kirby. Just saying.
But anyway, I had one more thing to add to that. Oh, I will say this. I don't believe it's academic, because you have guys like Smith Vilbert, who very good defensive end, sleeper guy to make some noise this year in the Big Ten at defensive end, Smith Vilbert. He was pretty much suspended an entire year and did nothing but practice squad because of academics. So
we didn't come to play school.
Yeah, well, tell that to Penn State. Frustrates me sometimes. But anyway, so just wanted to make a comment about that. But yeah, now we're going to stay in the Big Ten. Joe, what's going on? We did a Big Ten preview 2 weeks ago. Not as high on Sparty this year with Jonathan Smith, but can you at least tell the people about Jonathan Smith? Do you like the hire? Do you not like the hire? And what can we expect from Michigan State this year?
Yeah, I mean, I like the hire. I would have liked to see Elko, shout out A&M, that great hire. I like the hire. I think he's going to bring a little bit more of that like Mark D'Antonio type of attitude back to Michigan State. He's bringing 15 transfers with him, including Aiden Childs, who I'm excited to see play. Apparently, they had some really great things about him, said about him. I looked at his stats, though, too. The games he performed, it was against like a nobody team at home when they opened up. So whatever, we're going to see how he plays. Their schedule this year is brutal. They have a gauntlet of a schedule. At one point, they go Ohio State at Oregon, home against Iowa, at Michigan. Loss.
That's
yeah, and this is a transition year. The defense is going to be solid. They got some studs, but the offensive line is tough, and the offense is going to struggle this year. They're going to have great running backs. They always do. Carter's going to be awesome. I just don't know how much he's going to be able to do behind that line. So this is a transition year for the team. Their over-unders 4.5 wins. I actually love them to win 5. If they win 6 and go to the bowl, you give Smith coach of the year, because if he can get this team to a bowl, there's no higher honor at that point. So I'm excited for the transition. Obviously, Mel Tucker came in hot. He did everything he did, and he's gone, and we're glad to see him gone. But I'm just excited to move forward and get back to like Sparty football, like we saw like the mid 2000s when they're just dominating. I need that back in my life.
Yeah. To Joe's point, that stretch of the schedule is Ohio State at home, at Oregon, Iowa at home, at Michigan. Then you have Indiana at home, and Cignetti thinks they're going to win the Big Ten and national championship. So
hey, no spoiler alert, but I do have them over 5.5 wins this year.
Oh,
I love Indiana to go bowling this year.
Oh man, I like that. Another thing, Joe, that you didn't mention. Not only do you have Maryland, you have September Maryland.
Yeah,
which
worst
is
Maryland,
which is a lot different than October, November Maryland.
Yeah.
So that's not a cakewalk. I think Florida Atlantic, Prairie View, 2 wins. Boston College.
They're going to beat Boston College. They're going to open up 3-1. Then they're going to lose 4 straight. And then it's going to be a dog fight to win 1 or win 2 of the last 4 to get you there against Indiana, at Illinois, home against Purdue and Rutgers. Purdue stinks. Purdue is going to be a shell of themselves this year. They're going to be really bad. They'll beat Purdue at home. Rutgers is going to be tough. Indiana is going to be tough. I think Illinois is going to be bad. So they could probably win that. If it was at home, I'd guarantee it. But I like them to get 5 wins. I really do. But this is we're not going to watch a ton of Sparty football if you're not a Michigan State fan this year.
Most likely not. But I do like Jonathan Smith.
As do I.
It's a very, like, I've talked about Elko at A&M, where it's a cultural fit from a standpoint of physical football. I think Jonathan Smith is very similar. Like, he's going to bring a brand of football that fits Michigan State's identity historically.
Yeah. Control the clock, run the ball. We're going to play some hard defense.
Which I think
football, baby.
The secondary, the secondary has been very disappointing at Michigan State for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I think that is, I think that's kind of the reason they haven't been as good.
Yeah.
Just the secondary, even the year they were in the top 10, like, their secondary wasn't that great.
No, they got exposed late in the year that year. It was very obvious once you started playing some teams that could really sling the ball that, I mean, it started, with the Michigan top 10 matchup, and then it was just all downhill from there.
Yeah. But now the real reason why we bring Joe onto the show, we're going to talk futures. Okay. So let's talk a little bit of futures. Let's start in the ACC. Joe, who do you like ACC overs and unders? What do you like?
So I got 2 overs. First one is Clemson over 8.5. I think this is going to be a bounce back year for Clemson. Their 2 toughest games by far are going to be on the road, at Florida State, at Georgia. But the rest of their schedule is pretty favorable. They get Louisville at home, which is going to be huge for them. And then Wake Forest on the road, Virginia Tech on the road. That one might be a little bit of a tough one, but I think that there's a real path here for Clemson to not only cover the 8.5, but I think there's a way that Clemson can win 10 and win the ACC this year. I think they lose to Florida State at Florida State, and then I think they rematch against them in the ACC championship, and I could easily see Clemson winning it this year.
Yeah, when we had Micah on last week for the ACC preview, I think Micah was very high on Clemson as well, and felt like this was going to be a big year for the Tigers. Obviously, you expect a little bit more out of Cade Klubnik this year, and they have some better receivers from what we've been told. So I do think it's a little bit of a challenging schedule, especially when you start with Georgia. I think NC State's going to be a tricky game because, again, as we covered in the ACC preview last week, Dave Doran just kind of has Dabo's number. It seems like NC State always gives Clemson trouble. Virginia Tech is another one that's going to be tough. Louisville's going to be a program that I think takes a step back. And anytime you get App State on the schedule, it makes you clench your butthole a little bit. I say that as an A&M fan. But, I agree with you. I think it should be pretty easy for Clemson to hit the over this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that worries me, and I'm confident in this, Clemson lost a lot on defense, and I know that's usually their bread and butter, and I think we're just going to expect Clemson to just reload on defense until they don't. But the offense should be better receivers, second year or another year of Klubnik should, taking a step forward. But no, I do like that pick, that 8.5 Clemson. Them to finish 9-3 is pretty much expected of them.
Yeah, and I mean, we always talk about Clemson's been in like a down year for like the last 3 years. They're 30-10 since 2021. That's their slump. If that's your slump, There's teams that would kill to have their their best years be 30-10.
Yep. Nope. I completely understand that. What's your other one, Joe?
My other one, I love this one. This is going to be sweaty. All right. So this is not for the faint of heart. I love Georgia Tech over 4.5 wins this year. All right. Hear me out. Obviously, the offense is going to score. The defense is going to be the problem. All right. This is going to be, they're going to give up 30 a game. They need to score 35 a game. But their schedule, I like their schedule in a sense. All right. They have some tough games. Florida State, they're at home. They're going to lose that. I'm not going to spoil an early line pick, but there is an early line pick in that. But they have some easy ones baked in there. Georgia State at home, Duke at home, Louisville on the road is going to be a little bit of a tough one. Miami at home. They basically have 11 games to win 5 of them, because then their last game of the year in Athens against Georgia, they're not going to win that one. But they were 7-6 last year. They're making the moves to move forward. I really love this offense. And I think that they're going to score a ton of points. They're going to be a fun team to watch. Like I said, this will be a sweaty one. You're going to win your games early, and then you're just going to be hoping to cover that 5th game at the end of the year.
Yeah. I feel like there's 3 guaranteed wins in Georgia State, Virginia Military, and Duke.
Yeah.
And then I feel like they can get at least 2 more wins off that and get above 4. I have them going bowling. I have them I think they can get to 7 or 8 wins. I think is what I said on the ACC preview last week. And, that could be a little bit of a soft spot for Haynes King, former Texas A&M quarterback. But I do think this is a team that can surprise some people in 2024.
Yeah, he looked great last year, like 300 yards a game for the first 6 games or what have you. But he looked amazing. It's
crazy what happens when you don't have to memorize a George R.R. Martin novel for your playbook.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. I'm not saying I don't like it. So I think Georgia Tech is going to be an improved team. I just hate their schedule. I think their schedule is too tough. I do agree with Jay. I think they have 3 wins guaranteed. Can they get 2 more? It's going to be tough. I would not lay it down. However, if you're looking to get a little sweaty, as Joe put it, if you're looking to take a bit of a gamble in your gambling, then I would run with this. But I'm personally staying away.
Yeah. Just another little piece of information. Notre Dame lost their starting left tackle to a torn pectoral. I know that just because that's relevant to A&M's first game of the season, but I think that's going to hurt Notre Dame's chances quite a bit this year.
Yeah.
And Georgia Tech getting them at home, obviously, Notre Dame's going to be one of those teams where they just play close games all year because their defense is going to be good. But offensively, I don't know what they have there in South Bend.
Same. Yeah. I feel like Notre Dame I feel like they are what they are all the time. Tough defense, offense is going to be hit or miss. All depends kind of on their schedule. Love Marcus Freeman. I wish he wasn't coaching at Notre Dame. That's how much so I could root for him. But yeah, that's a huge loss for the Irish. Wonder how Kevin's doing with that whole thing.
Probably not great.
Probably not good.
Probably not great.
I'll go with mine next, and then we'll turn it over to Jay for our ACC over-unders. So I have Virginia Tech over 8.5. 19 starters returning. Their defense is going to be good. They have the most production coming back of any team in college football. Yes, 19 starters are back. Kyron Jones is going to be a player that you're going to know the name of about halfway through the year. And we might be seeing under Brent Pry, Altoona native Brent Pry, we might be seeing a resurgence of Virginia Tech start this year. So I like Virginia Tech over 8.5. Any comments?
Yeah, no, I think this was another one that we covered pretty heavily in the ACC preview where we felt we were all pretty high on this squad. And this is another one where part of me is rooting for Virginia Tech to have a good year just because Lane Stadium at night, when they have a good squad in Blacksburg. That is a place that has to be high on your bucket list. Inner Sandman, obviously, everything that goes along with it. And Kyron Jones came on really well towards the end of last year. It feels like he's primed for another step up. And quarterback play can, at the end of the day, carry it in college football for sure. So I do like that pick.
Yeah, it's a big number, but when you look at their schedule is not that challenging. Mm-hmm. I mean, your hardest test really, Clemson at home, but you get them at home. Miami on the road, I think, is a loss, and Syracuse, I think, is a loss. I think Syracuse is very, very, underrated, not talked about enough. But I think their schedule breaks pretty well for them. It's a lot for me. I don't love 8.5. It's a pretty big number.
It's a big number, but
I could definitely see them getting there.
Because here's the thing: if Kyron Jones goes down in week 3, then now you're like, oh crap, like this might be done. So yes, it is a big number. So if you don't like big numbers, don't bet it. However, if you look at the schedule, I'm like, hey, they should be able to win this. Follow me. This is other one's an under, and I hate to pick it, but I just feel like, because I am rooting for this man. Duke under 5.5.
Yeah.
There's just too much. There too much to replace, too much rebuilding. They're not going to make a bowl. And Manny Diaz, great defensive coach, but he has to rebuild an offense. I think their defense is still going to take a step back, but he'll be able to maintain it. But if you have no offense, or you have no offense moving the football, it doesn't matter how good your defense is, they're going to get worn down. So I got Duke under 5.5.
Yeah, Duke just feels like a program that's going to take a step back without Mike Elko there. They lose a lot. Obviously Riley Leonard no longer at the quarterback position, and we saw what Duke looked like without Riley Leonard last year, and it wasn't great. So I think that's a pretty safe pick.
Yeah, that's way too much to lose. It's a shame because what they've done the last couple of years, and I really think their coming out party when they beat Clemson to start the season, like that, Duke was finally maybe we're a football school too. So for them to lose, their starting quarterback and then obviously Elko at the same time, that's tough for the program. They might even start 4-0, and then that's it for wins for the rest of the season, because their schedule is very easy up front and then just all challenging games in the back end. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jay, anything from the ACC?
I got a pair of unders. We'll start with SMU at 7.5. It just feels like it's going to be tough for SMU to get to 8 wins with the schedule. Non-conference games at home against BYU and TCU, I feel like they drop at least one of those, if not both. Florida State and Louisville both feel like losses. And then, we talked about this in the ACC preview. If SMU has struggles, it's going to be with physical teams. You have a road matchup at Stanford, who plays a physical brand of football that it just feels like a tailor-made bad game for SMU. And while I think the Mustangs are going to get to a bowl game in 2024, it feels like 7 wins is kind of what I would expect from them. I think it's going to be a little bit of time before they get to the point where they're competing for ACC titles. With that being said, the investment's there. They're recruiting well. I think they're going to get there, just not in year 1.
Same. You pretty much took every word out of my mouth. They're going to struggle with teams up front. And also, like we talk about Maryland, towards the end of the year, I think that's going to kind of wear and tear at them as well. So, I think SMU is also going to make a bowl game. I just don't think 8 wins. I think it's just way too much.
Yeah, that's way, way too much for this team, especially with all the changes happening right now. And you speak of that Stanford game. How about Boston College? That's not going to be a great game for them either. That's going to be a matchup nightmare for them.
Well, and we saw that last year in the Fenway Bowl, right?
Yeah.
The physicality. And obviously there were some other factors. It felt like SMU didn't really want to be in the Fenway Bowl. They thought they deserved to be in a New Year's 6 game. And then the rain also didn't help their offense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just feels like there's some matchup issues that the Ponies are going to have to deal with. My second under is Wake Forest under 4.5. I think Wake Forest is a 4-win team. I don't hate Dave Clawson, but dear God, do I hate the slow mesh. I mean, this is a topic that comes up often on this podcast because I just despise it. Maybe that's my defensive lineman bias showing there, but the sooner that we can get the slow mesh out of here, the sooner I'll be happy. Even putting that bias aside, though, this is a very tough schedule. Some of the more winnable games are on the road, right? Like you have a Stanford where you think that Wake Forest has a good chance, but you're going all the way to the West Coast to play that game. You don't know how that team's going to deal with that. I think you get NC State, you get a Louisiana team that's usually a pretty good Group of Five program. Obviously, an Ole Miss game like that should be counted as a loss because that's just not a good matchup for Wake Forest. So I think they get to 4 wins. I don't think they get that 5th win to get them over 4.5.
Yeah, this one's tough because if they win the games I feel like they're supposed to, they get to 5. They don't go bowling, but they get to 5 because like North Carolina A&T win. Louisiana will be tougher, but I think they win there. UConn has been improved. I think they win there.
It's on the road, though.
It is on the road. Duke is going to be bad, so they have a shot there. Stanford's physical. So it's a lot of coin flips.
Yeah.
It's like 2 games are supposed to win, and then you got a lot of coin flips. So, and then you have games like Clemson, NC State,
just chalk it,
Miami, North Carolina that are most likely losses.
Yeah. When I was preparing for this and I was looking, I was like, let me get 2 plays in each conference. I looked at Wake Forest because I said the 4.5, and I said, let me see if I can get them to 5, and I just couldn't do it. And for me, it's the defense. So they improved year over year last year, but they still let up about 30 points a game last year, and they were like dead last in passing defense. So the secondary still has a ton of concerns, and for their schedule to have secondary concerns, they're going to have a lot of trouble. Like even like teams like North Carolina who love to sling the ball around the yard, even them who are going to take a huge step back with no Drake May, they're going to score a ton of points on them. So I just see them, they're giving up way too much in their offense. When you have 3 guys fighting for the quarterback position going into fall camp, like they do, you're not going to be built to keep up with teams when your defense is going to give up 30 plus.
Yeah. And I believe North Carolina's quarterback is former Mr. Tennessee football.
Is he?
Because I remember him playing. No, sorry, not Tennessee, like the university. Yeah, like the fresh. I think he was a
T. Higgins won that back in the day.
Yeah.
Just a little fun fact.
There you go. I remember because he came in the bowl game against West Virginia, and it said like Mr. Tennessee football, and the guy can run. He's got a big arm, so he's got some intangibles. So North Carolina might be able to, sling the rock against them. But yeah, it's gonna be tough for Wake Forest. I think I had him at 5-7. I think I had him at 5-7 in my preview. But now we move on. Big 12 time. Joe, what do you have for the Big 12?
So I've been obviously following you on social media and on your shows. So maybe my favorite play of the year, West Virginia over 6.5.
Yeah.
It looks so easy that it scares me.
Yep.
How easy it looks. So they rushed the ball well. They were like top 5 in the nation last year. I mean, it's all really going to depend on their defense, but that side of the ball is going to look like completely different because they're looking with like 4 transfers in the secondary. The unit's going to look totally different. But when you look at their schedule, all they got to do, they just got to win a couple of these 50-50 games, home against Kansas, home against Kansas State, and then they have the 2 games at Arizona, at Texas Tech. They will win one of them. I think they lose one of them. Mm-hmm. But the other games on their schedule that should be pretty, check the box wins, I think is enough to get them to 7 very easy. I love this team. I can't wait to see them play. And like I said, it scares me how much I like over 6.5.
Because
my thing with West Virginia is, Joe, you mentioned the rushing attack, and they have two of my favorite running backs in the country, and C.J. Donaldson and Jaheim White.
Yep.
That duo, along with what should be a better performance from Garrett Green, makes me think that 6.5 won't be an issue.
Yeah, and you add Oklahoma State. You add that wide receiver from Oklahoma State, Bray, who's going to come in, and now he's going to add depth to the passing game, which is going to open up more lanes in the rushing. With White being a true freshman, they're going to be so much fun to watch.
I also have West Virginia over 6.5, and I've said it before. It looks so good. Like, it looks too good. And the last time I felt this good about a pick, I had Illinois plus 5.5 last year, and they won 4 games. Because I was like, oh my God, this team is bringing back all these guys. They got 2 draft first rounders at defensive tackle. Like, this is going to be a team, man, and didn't get there. So I do have a little hesitant, but I've laid this down already. But look at their schedule again. Penn State's going to be tough. Penn State's going to be very tough.
They're going to lose that game.
What?
They're going to lose against Penn State.
Okay, right. The line's 10.5 there.
Yeah, and I think when you look up in the fourth quarter with about 8 minutes left, it's going to be within 10. But I think Penn State is just they're just the next step and a half above them right now. Right.
But you'll beat Albany. And I know, again, I'm a Great Dane fan now. But what?
They're going to kick the shit out of Albany.
Yeah. Albany made a big run last year in the FCS playoffs, but they lost a lot. They lost a lot of dudes. This is not the same team that made an FCS run. So West Virginia is going to kill Albany. West Virginia is going to beat Pitt, which I will be at that game, by the way. Officially will be at the backyard brawl.
Yeah.
But again, Kansas is a 50-50 game. Oklahoma State 50-50 game, because you never know what you're going to get with them. Iowa State is a 50-50 game. Kansas State, they have them at home. Arizona's tough. But then Cincinnati, Baylor, UCF, those 3 games should be wins. Okay, so now you're at 5 definite wins. Texas Tech, again, another 50-50 game. So you should have 5 wins. You need to win 2 more 50-50 games, and they're all 50-50 games. The only game you're most likely going to lose is Penn State. Everything else is winnable because you have them at home.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, Jay, how are you feeling on this? I know you said you like West Virginia, but they should be able to hit it, right?
I think they're going to be a 9-win team.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It looks too easy.
They're not winning 6, are they?
They're winning 4.
The confidence that we have. Yeah, we
I know. This is like bowl season where we're all like, oh, yep, count it as a loss. We're all in on it. So yeah, I also have West Virginia over 6.5 as well. Joe, what's your other?
So my other one, conference winner, Utah plus 330. It all depends on Cam Rising. If Cam Rising stays healthy, I think they're the best team in that conference this year. Their schedule is a joke. They don't have to play Kansas State. Hardest game is they got to go to Stillwater. They got to play Oklahoma State there. Outside of that, it's an absolute cakewalk. I think their over-under total is 9.5. I've already bet that as well. I think there's a real chance if they beat Oklahoma State on the road, they could potentially go into the college playoff undefeated, because the rest of their schedule, to me, it just looks like a cakewalk. And Utah is one of the most underrated places in difficulty to go and win a game. But I love this team. And once again, if it's all about Cam Rising, if he stays healthy, they are going to be right there in the hunt, fighting for a playoff spot this year.
Very, very physical team. Obviously they dodged Kansas State on the regular season schedule. I've already penciled in that the championship game of the Big 12 is going to be Utah and Kansas State, and we're going to get to see that physical matchup, which will be I'll be salivating over that one, because I think it'll be a really fun game.
Yeah,
if it happens. But I think I agree with everything you said. I do think Cam Rising stays healthy, and I think this Utah squad is going to be a 10-win and probably a playoff team.
Yep.
Listen, Utah wasn't bad last year, but they didn't have a quarterback. No offense to Harrison Barnes, but Cam Rising coming back is going to be huge. This team also returns a lot of production, so I do really like that pick for the conference winner for the Big 12. And listen, the Big 12, it's the fun conference. It's everybody's equal. It's going to be a great time to watch. Very excited for it. So I have my over-under. I have Iowa State over 6.5 wins. Again, another team returning a lot of production. I know Matt Campbell gets a lot of flack for quote unquote not winning big games. However, he always seems to get more out of his players than expected. At least when they're quote unquote rebuilding. I don't know. I really like this. They do have Texas Tech and UCF. Those are 50-50 games, but they are at home. I think they're going to lose to Iowa, but get this. That's only a 2-point favorite, Iowa. That's a little closer than I expected. So I like Iowa State over 6.5. Matt Campbell kind of silences some of the haters out there that he's not a great coach. However, if he wins 7, they're still going to say it anyway.
Yeah.
But the bet hits. So I do like Cyclones over 6.5.
Yeah, I like Iowa State to get 8 wins. I think that's a good pick, especially at 6.5. I think there's a pretty safe area to be if you're taking that over for the Cyclones.
Yeah, I mean, looking at their schedule now, I can definitely see a path there for 7 fairly easy, especially with, I mean, what did he win Freshman of the Year last year? The quarterback, right? He was like outstanding for them.
Pretty good.
And then they had the sophomore running back who had a great like second half of the season. I think there's an easy path here to 7 when I look at this. 8 would be impressive. I don't know if they got 8 in them, but I definitely like 7.
Yeah. I get it now because I think it's
starting to
move.
It's starting to move. But yeah, so that's my other one. So Jay.
Yeah, I'm obviously on the West Virginia train at over 6.5. That was one of my picks. But I'm also taking Oklahoma State under 8. I think Oklahoma State, and I think we may have talked about this in the Big 12 preview, I think Oklahoma State's going to struggle this year. I think it's going to be tough. They start off with South Dakota State, which you think FCS opponent, they should be able to handle them. That is not a typical FCS program. And South Dakota State has given every FBS program they played for the past few years a run for their money. Very, very physical team. And then I think Arkansas, where Sam Pittman's going to be coaching for his job, is a tough one. I am not ruling out 0-2 to start the year for the Cowboys. I'm just not. Tulsa should be a win, but then you have Utah, Kansas State, West Virginia back to back to back. And you look at that and you think, well, this thing could snowball in a hurry for the Cowboys. And with the win total at 8, I mean, listen, I think this is going to be a very tough year in Stillwater. I just don't see them getting to 8 wins.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other piece of it, too, before we move on, is even if they win that South Dakota State game, that is a very physical brand of football that the Jackrabbits are going to bring. And it's going to be hard to walk out of that first game of the season healthy.
And that's also, I mean, that's South Dakota State Super Bowl this year. Yeah. So they're coming in, they're looking to make a name for themselves. It's definitely a much tougher schedule. It's one of the reasons why I picked Utah this year over them, is because of how much of a tougher schedule they have going into it. I do think the second half of the season is going to get easier. So for you to hit that, you're definitely going to have to see those losses stack up, particularly in that like 3-game stretch you said in the beginning.
The other piece is you have to wonder about the offseason distractions with Ollie Gordon getting arrested for the DUI.
True.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
True.
Obviously, Mike Gundy didn't seem to be bothered too much by it, but
couldn't care less.
That's teach their own, I guess.
1,000 times. Who hasn't done it 1,000 times?
Come on, who hasn't done it? Come on.
We got this thing called Uber in the year 2024.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth on Oklahoma State. I could see them going 9 wins. I could see them going,
I mean, the other piece of it is they are an enigma. You never know what you're.
You never know. You enigma wrapped in a riddle. All right, is that all? Are we all good for Big 12?
That's Big 12 since we're all on West Virginia.
Yeah, since we're all in West Virginia.
Sorry about your season, West Virginia fans.
Yeah, we're all in. All right, let's move to the SEC. Joe, SEC football. Who do you got?
All right, I'm not doing this just because I'm here. Texas A&M over 8.5 wins.
Oh,
Feels good. Obviously with Elko, Colin Klein. I love this team. I love this team a lot. Toughest games are all at Kyle Field. So you get Notre Dame at home, LSU, Texas. They're all going to be played at home. I think they're a dark horse to make it to the SEC title game. And when you look at their schedule, they got to just take care of the 50-50 games. The rest of the games line up fairly easy for them at home. McNeese, they're going to obviously win that. Bowling Green, I think they're going to be head and shoulders better than Arkansas. Missouri, I know we talked about it a little bit earlier. I think Missouri is going to take a step back. I think that they're going to disappoint a little bit this year. I really love this team to get to 9 wins. And I think Florida, I would put that as a 50-50 game right now. But I lean A&M because I think that they're just going to be a little bit better than Florida. And Florida's schedule is so brutal that that team's just going to struggle all year. But I like them to get there. I like what they did on the defensive side. They got the kid from Purdue that led the Big Ten in sacks last year. Yep, they added him to the defensive line. They have a ton of talent, NFL talent in the linebacker area. Who'd they add from Florida? Scooby Williams. Like they brought in a lot of good talent
from Pitt.
Yeah, I like this team a lot. I think they're going to win nine games, maybe more, and I think that they're going to be right there in the conversation when we come into the end of the season about the SEC championship game.
I love it. I like it.
So I was on this team as an 8-win team. The 4 losses I had penciled in were Notre Dame, LSU, Mizzou, and Texas. We talked about it earlier already with Notre Dame losing their starting left tackle. And Joe, as you mentioned, Nick Scorton coming in as the Big Ten sack leader. That game just got a lot harder for Notre Dame. And so that has shifted my perspective a little bit. I don't want to buy into the Kool-Aid too much, right? Because we do this every year with my Aggies. But I do think they have a good chance to get to 9 wins in 2024. Yeah. And obviously the talent's there, right? Like you still have a lot of guys from that number 1 recruiting class. Very, very good defense. You brought in a ton of transfers in the secondary too, where they struggled last year. And obviously you lose some talent up front with Walter Nolan and McKinley Jackson both gone. But I'd argue the defensive line should be better this year because they have a natural pass rusher in Scorton. Yeah, I think that's going to be a big difference maker for this team where they don't have to blitz to create pressure on quarterbacks. So I look at it and I do think that this team has a very good chance to get to 9 wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. You beat Notre Dame. You're in prime position to hit that over. And also I can also see this coming down to the last year the last game.
Yeah.
Against Texas.
Which that game, that's basically going to be a playoff game at that point. But that game is going to be so much fun. I hate how quick the college football season goes, but that's going to be a game that I'm looking forward to all year.
Yeah.
It's the most expensive ticket in college football.
Is it really?
I think it's 800 is the lowest right now.
Oh my goodness.
I saw something similar. I was like $560
for nosebleeds.
Jeez.
Yeah. Think about that. But it means something. It does mean something down there. It is great that rivalry is back.
100%.
On a side note, like
100%.
It just, yeah.
Joe, what's your second game or second pick?
Yeah, second one. I'm going with an under. I'm going Arkansas under 4.5. Listen, they brought back Bobby Petrino. That's how bad this organization is down right now. The motorcycle accident heard around the world, quote unquote. I don't like this team. I don't like this team much at all. The quarterback they're bringing in from Boise State, he had like a horrific passer rating. He can't throw the ball well in the Mountain West. I don't know what he's going to do in the SEC. Their schedule is absolutely brutal at Oklahoma State, at A&M, home against Tennessee, LSU, home against Ole Miss.
So
Texas.
The A&M game is that neutral site game that's always a little bit weird in Jerry World.
I forgot about that.
I will say though that this is the last year we're finally out of that miserable contract. Going back to home and home.
Yeah, I don't see 5 wins on the schedule. They'll win Pine Bluff, UAB, and I think La Tech at the end of the year. And then they got a couple 50-50 games in there. But going to Starkville, that's not a gimme for this Arkansas team. Go into Auburn, that's not a gimme at all for this team. So I think there's too many really tough spots and really 50-50 spots that don't lean their favor that I don't see them getting to 5.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Sam Pittman, man, he was the ultimate players coach, the darling of college football, and it fell.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It's the magic ran out. He'll get a job after this, though. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So SEC for me, I talked about this on the SEC preview. Tennessee over 8.5. As you both know, I hate Tennessee. Like, I loathe them. But I gotta be honest here. Great pass rush coming back. Good run game. I like Iamaliva. He looked better as the year went on. Listen, I think Tennessee goes 11-1. Like,
wow.
they can literally go 11-1, even if they go 10-2. I think they beat Alabama. They'll lose to Georgia, but they beat Alabama. Even if they lose to Bama at home, I think they still go 10-2. And then you still have another game that they can flub away. Yeah, I really like this Tennessee Volunteers team.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard Josh Pate talking about them and said if teams were stocks, this would be one that he'd be buying over the course of the next 3 years to really ramp up and be kind of a force over the course of the next 3 years. So, I like that. I like that pick. I think it's a low number for them, but 11-1 is pretty crazy.
I'm telling you, I believe in it. My under. Okay, here's the sweaty under. You ready? Alabama under 9.5. Hold
on. You were just telling me Bama to make the playoffs plus 100. You're thinking about betting it.
No. I didn't say that. When did I say that?
Didn't you
Bama?
say? Yeah. Didn't you say Bama?
No. That was another team. It was not Alabama.
No, check tape.
Maybe I did say it. I don't know.
It's a tough schedule.
Oh, no, hang on. No. I remember what I said. And by the way, for everyone listening, this was before.
Oh, okay.
This was before. This was not on. I wasn't on the record. However, I said that I was surprised by the odds for Alabama just to make it. So here's the thing. It's good odds to put on Alabama to make the playoff. Okay, it is good odds. However, I think Alabama's going to take a step, man. They're going to take a step back. You have a new regime coming in. It's going to take a while for them to kind of get things rolling. Okay. Plus, Alabama's schedule. Let's take a look at this. You got a game you have Georgia, who is better than you. Okay. You have Georgia, who's better than you. You have to go to Tennessee and to LSU. You have to go to Oklahoma. You have to go to Wisconsin, which, again, they're better than Wisconsin. They're better than Oklahoma, but they're on the road. Auburn's getting better, but it's in Tuscaloosa. If Alabama loses the games, or if they lose to Georgia, which they'll probably be an underdog in, and then they lose to Tennessee, that LSU game is going to be everything.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a 9-3 Alabama team, and people in Tuscaloosa are going to lose their minds because they won't know how to handle it.
For the record, I think Alabama can still make the playoff at 9-3.
Yes, they can. So if you really want to sweat,
I would love to see the odds on parlaying those two together.
Yeah. Love it. But yeah, so Alabama under 9.5. It's not something that I love. If you're gonna take any two of my picks, put it on Tennessee over 8.5. This one though, Alabama under 9.5. That's a sweat pick right there. That's when you're going to sweat out.
Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and go into my pick since you guys left this one for me. Georgia 10.5 over feels like a pretty good pick. I think Georgia loses at least one regular season game, but I still feel pretty good about them getting 11 wins at least. Obviously a tough schedule, right? Because you have Bama, you have Tennessee, you have Texas, you have Ole Miss, all very tough games. But at the end of the day, it's Georgia. And I feel like they should theoretically be an 11-1 team at worst.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I also love for Carson Beck to win the Heisman this year. If you're going to take you want to stay away from the top 3 or 4 guys, I like Carson Beck to win the Heisman this year because I think he's really underrated. When they're talking about quarterbacks, you're going to hear about Dart all year, but you're not going to hear a lot about Carson Beck. He does I'm going to manage the game, but take it to that next level a little bit so well. So I like that. Over 10.5 does feel good.
Yep.
And then my second is going to be an under, and that's the Florida Gators under 4.5.
Brutal schedule.
I think they can get to 5 wins. I just don't have a lot of faith in that 5th win because I think you struggle with Miami. I think Texas A&M goes on the road and beats them. And then from there, Mississippi State could be a win, but you run the risk of Billy Napier getting fired at some point in the middle of this season. Yeah. And I don't have faith in the Gators to get it done. I think they're going to really struggle. The back half of the year is just absolutely miserable. Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State.
Yeah, that's the worst schedule in the sport.
And that UCF game isn't a gimme either. You can bet that Gus Malzahn's going to be in his bag when he comes to the Swamp.
Oh yeah, listen, Samford is a FCS. Hang on, I'm not they should beat Samford. I'm not saying Samford's going to win, but Samford's a decent FCS program.
Yeah,
they're you better come to play. It's such a hard schedule, and I've talked about the tinfoil hat theory that they made Tennessee, Mizzou, and Ole Miss's schedules relatively easy to try and get them all in the playoff. They did that at the expense of loading up Florida.
Yeah. And then having that brutal game to close out the season non-conference at Florida State doesn't do them any favors either.
No.
I think Miami is going to be the swing game here. I think that's kind of the one that determines whether Florida gets the over or the under, because I think they can pull off that upset, especially at home.
Yeah.
But there's obviously the rivalry aspect too, but I just think that this team's going to struggle down the stretch.
Yep.
Even if they win that game, it's just the rest of it is
that's tough.
So hard. You win that one, the Samford one. Let's say you go into Starkville and you beat UCF, you still got to get another win somewhere, and the rest of them are just brutal.
Yeah.
I think what I'm looking at here is a loss, losses everywhere except for Miami, Samford. Guaranteed losses everywhere except Miami, Samford, Mississippi State, UCF, and Kentucky.
Yeah,
I think those are the 5 wins that they have possible on the schedule, and I'm not convinced that they get that one win out of those games.
Yeah,
it's just absolutely brutal. No, that's something I think a lot of people have been looking at just because of how just a gauntlet that schedule is. And I know I usually talk about SEC is the best conference, but it's not as good as people make it out to be. This year it is. This year, the SEC is going to be as advertised.
Well, and you also add in Texas and Oklahoma, which doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't. And I think it's going to be where I think usually there's only one more team that's better than the Big Ten. I think this year you're going to see at least 2 more really good teams compared to the Big Ten. And Florida gets to play them all, Lucky them. And now let's move on to the Big Ten. Joe, Big Ten.
Yep. Let's start with an under. Illinois under 5.5 wins. They were 5-7 last year, and what can only be considered a disappointment for them. I know some people a little bit higher on them last year. Defense is going to be their biggest concern. They added, I think, 3 transfers from the SEC, but none in the secondary. And the secondary was where they have their biggest issues. They gave up, I think, like 29.5 points a game last year. The offense is going to be a little bit better. They averaged 25 last year, but there were 2 games, one versus Indiana, where they scored 45 against them, but Indiana's awful. And then one where they scored 43 against Northwestern and still lost that game. You take out those 2, their average drops just under 20 points a game. I think that's more of where Illinois is going to be this year. They got 3 guaranteed wins. Then they have 3 50-50s. They're going to have to win all 3 of those 50-50s because the other games on their schedule, home against Kansas, at Nebraska, at Penn State, at Oregon, home against Michigan, those are all losses. So I don't see them getting to 6 wins this year. I think they're going to be 5-7 again.
Yeah, I'm pretty low on Illinois. They burned me last year, and
people don't forget.
I know some of my Big Ten guys. Like we have Jeffy the Greek on here. I know Jeff's a little bit higher on them. He thinks they could possibly make a bowl game, but I'm not there. I'm pretty low on Illinois.
Yeah. So Illinois under 5.5 was actually one of my picks.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. So I'm also with Joe on that. I think they beat Eastern Illinois. I think they beat Central Michigan. And after that, I struggle to find wins. I think they can beat Purdue. But and this will lead into one of my other picks later on. I just don't see many other wins on the schedule for the Illini. I think they're going to be a 4-win team.
So we all like Illinois under 5.5.
Yeah.
So they're probably winning 7 games.
Enjoy the Boca Raton Bowl, Illinois.
Yeah. Enjoy Detroit in the Motor City Bowl. There we go. Joe, do you have another?
Yes. And this is actually 3 picks rolled into 1.
Oh, my.
Ohio State over 10.5 wins. Ohio State to win the conference plus 238. Ohio State national champion plus 410. This is the best team Ryan Day's ever had. They add Chip Kelly, offensive coordinator. Will Howard is a step above McCord. He's going to do everything he has to do to just manage the game. When I look at this team, they are a carbon copy of Michigan last year. They're going to play. They're going to be the best defense in the country, if not, top 3. They add Caleb Downs from Bama, who was a stud, to that defensive unit where they're already returning 9 starters. They are going to be an absolute force. I think they lose possibly to Oregon. I think they're going to beat Penn State. If that game in Penn State was at night, I would say Penn State has a shot. The fact that it's going to be at noon is going to kill all the vibes that Penn State could bring to it. Big noon kick is the worst thing that is ever invented.
It's still going to be raw. Hang on. It'll still be rocking.
Yeah, it'll still be rocking, but it won't be rocking.
It's not going to have that same mystique under it, though. Yeah.
This is the best team in my eyes in the country by a mile. Yep. I think that they should be the preseason number 1. I call my shot on my newsletter, which is link in the bio. Subscribe. We ride. They're going to open up at home against Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall. I'm calling it now. They outscore them 125-20 combined. This team is going to blow teams out this year.
Yeah. Caleb Downs is one of the best players in the country.
Yeah.
And I think that was a massive pickup for Ohio State. I don't think that can be overstated.
Yeah. The rich get richer.
Yeah.
So last year I said Michigan national champions. One of my predictions that went the correct way. I think Ohio State's going to win it too. I'm with you there. 100% with you. So for me, first off, over Iowa, over 8.5. This is one of the best defenses in the country. Their defense last year was really good, and they return a load of production on defense. And I know everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, but their offense." the offense has to be better. It will be better. But look who they got. Illinois State win. Troy win. They're better than Minnesota, and they're going to be coming for blood after that game last year. They're better than Northwestern. They're better than Michigan State. Wisconsin's a toss-up. They're better than UCLA. They're better than Maryland. Okay? I like this team to get over 8.5 wins. The only auto loss I see on this schedule is Ohio State. They can beat everybody else on their schedule.
Yeah. I love this pick. I almost put this in my conference preview newsletter. The offense always scares me just because you're always one broken play away from losing a game when your team can't score. But I agree with you. I love this team. I don't know what their odds are right now off the top of my head, but I would look for them, Iowa, to make the playoff. I think you're probably going to get plus odds on that. I think that would be a pretty fun play to follow all year.
Yeah. Spoiler.
Or not.
Jay?
Yeah, I like Iowa. I think Iowa in this year, and I actually think the offense is going to be much better. And part of that again is because the bar is literally on the floor. But I just think that with the defense that you're going to get from Iowa and an improved offense, this team is set up to do some really good things with that schedule.
Nice. Good. My other one might be a shocker to some people. Might be Washington under 6.5. People are going to be laying overs for Washington. They're just in the national championship. Listen, they lost everybody. Everyone. Like lot of guys.
This feels like TCU part 2.
Yes, this looks like TCU part 2. Hey, how about LSU after they won the whole thing, man? Like Washington, like their defense loses a lot. Their offense loses everyone. It's just too much to rebuild. I don't know who they're going to have on their offensive line. I think that's going to be a problem. And man, if you're going to be in this conference, you have to have a good offensive line because those defenses are going to tear you apart. Washington Huskies under 6.5. Lay it down.
I don't hate that pick at all.
Yeah. No. Yeah, this is like Big Ten's Duke, basically. It's essentially going to be the same thing. Everybody's going to be gone. And they're going to be fighting for scraps.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be as bad as Duke. I'm just saying. However,
schedule is brutal.
Yeah. And they got to go to Penn State. Hang on.
They got to go to Iowa right after Michigan. That's going to be, you know how much they're not going to want to play that game? Like that is, they're looking at the schedule now and going, oh God, can we hit like Sim next week for that one?
Like it, and I don't want to assume, but I feel like a lot of those West Coast teams, Washington, Oregon, USC, even a little UCLA, I don't think they understand like that some of these teams are going to punch them in the mouth. Like teams that aren't going to be as talented as them, but they're just going to be real scrappy. The Minnesotas, the Iowas, not Illinois this year, but Michigan State. You're going to have some teams that are going to punch you in the mouth. Yeah. And if you're going on the road, a little bit of a tangent, but the Oregon Ducks going around to all the different places.
Just asking for trouble.
Asking for trouble.
You're setting yourself up.
And it's standing on its head outside of Purdue. And everyone's commenting yeah, listen, that's where top 5 teams go to die. Yeah. Don't play around with Purdue. You know what I'm saying? There are teams in this conference that are just not as talented, but are real scrappy and are just tough up front. Northwestern being one of those teams. I think they take a major step back this year. However, they're tough up front. I don't know if they fully understand because I think they're just going to be oh yeah, we're just going to throw up a whole bunch of points. And I think they're going to be sorely mistaken. Jay.
Yeah, so I already mentioned the Illinois under as one of my picks. Mm-hmm. The bookend to that is the other Illinois team in the Big Ten. You mentioned Northwestern. I think Northwestern over is going to hit at 4.5. I look at their schedule. I think they beat Miami of Ohio. I think they beat Duke. I think they beat Eastern Illinois to start the season off. And we talked about how Washington may be a little bit in over their heads. I think there's a possibility for an upset there. I think they can get Indiana. I think they can get Purdue. And I think they'll be better than Illinois. So I do think that you can get to 5 wins with this Northwestern team. Maybe a little bit sweaty, but it didn't feel like they took as big of a step back as they were expected to with everything that happened in this program over the offseason last year. And then David Braun is a good coach. I think we saw that already. And I think that's how they're going to win games. They're going to outcoach opponents. I expect Northwestern to get to 5 wins at least.
I think it's going to come down to Purdue. I think that's what it comes down to. And that's why I kind of stayed away from this. And again, we say it a lot. So if you want like bigger detail into like these team seasons, please check out the previews because we mentioned it a bunch already. But here's my thing on Northwestern. They dominated the turnover ratio. They got a little lucky, I think, with some of the timely turnovers with their win-loss record. What's going to happen this year if teams take care of the ball?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's scary.
Listen, man, it's gonna be weird happenings in that lacrosse stadium.
Oh, 100%. Right,
there's
next
gonna be
to
some
the lake.
shenanigans.
The wind is gonna be outrageous. Like, oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't hate the pick though, Jay. I don't hate it.
I don't hate it. I mean, you're gonna sweat it. They're gonna win early, and then they're gonna need these 50-50 games or need the Indiana game, maybe a Purdue game to go their way. But I mean, betting an over Northwestern future is as Big Ten as it gets, baby. And nothing
4.5, right? Like it's not outrageous. I don't.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Is that everyone for the Big Ten?
That's the Power 5.
That's Power 5. All right, so we're bringing at least one Group of 5 to the table. I'm going to kick this off with my Group of 5 first. App State over 8.5. I think they're going to win the Sun Belt. Only automatic loss for App State. The only auto loss on that schedule is Clemson, I believe. But yeah, this team I believe is going to win the Sun Belt. Let's take a look at that schedule here. Eastern Tennessee win. East Carolina's rebuilding win. South Alabama, it might be tough, but you get them at home. Liberty's going to be tough. Marshall possibly, but then you got Louisiana, who they're better than, Georgia State, Old Dominion, Coastal, and then James Madison. Like, I'm telling you, this is a 9-win football team, and they're better. And Georgia Southern, you get Marshall, Louisiana, Georgia Southern away, but this is a 9-win football team. The only auto loss here is Clemson. So I like Mountaineers.
Yeah, I had them plus 230 to win the conference as well.
There it is.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think Texas State's going to end up winning the Sun Belt, but I think App State's right there. I think it's a very safe pick.
Yeah. Joe, who else you have?
So I have that. The other one I have is Liberty over 10.5. I mean, they averaged like 300 yards on the ground last year.
Ooh.
The other sprinkle I'm going to put on them is you can bet them to go undefeated at plus 270, which I think is just going to be a fun bet. They're gonna score a ton of points this year. They lost their top receiver to LSU, but they were such a rushing force that I don't think it really matters all that much. And their schedule's a pretty much a cakewalk. I think their toughest game is at App State. App State is, like we said, I think they're going to win the Sun Belt. I do think App State loses that game only because App State struggled to stop the run last year, and that's what Liberty does best. So I think from that standpoint, it's just a little bit of a matchup nightmare for them, but Liberty's going to be that team that's going to be trying to get in that 12-team playoff, and if they go undefeated, there's no way they're going to keep them out.
What'd you say it was at again? 10?
It's at 10.5.
I mean, look at the schedule here.
It's a cakewalk schedule.
It's Conference USA, and they don't play anyone out of conference besides App.
Yeah.
And they have to go to App State. But
that's their only game on their schedule that they look like they could lose.
I hate him so much.
So do I. I'm not a huge fan of him either.
Absolute joke. Absolute joke. And again, I advocated for SMU to get in that Fiesta Bowl. That's how bad. Like, I hate them. That I'm advocating.
We'll probably get some comments again for this. We got somebody asked why the Liberty hate, and it's like, well, you take your pick.
Hey, listen, I went to Liberty.
Look them up.
For one. I did get my master's online. So I dropped right out. But technically,
former Liberty student Joe Pops.
Jay?
So I have a different pick for my Group of 5 team to go to the playoff, and that is the Memphis Tigers.
Ooh, I love this.
I have the over at 9.5. I think Memphis loses to Florida State. I think they win every other game on their schedule. I think the Memphis Tigers are going to be very, very, very good this year. They're building off of a big Liberty Bowl win over Iowa State. This is not just a good Group of 5 team. This is a good team. And I think the American Conference takes a little bit of a step back in 2024. Obviously, SMU has moved on. I think UTSA is the only other team in that conference that is going to give them a run for their money. Tulane, I think, is going to be better than people give them credit for after hiring the Troy coach. But I just think this Memphis team is the best Group of 5 team, and I like the Tigers to win 10 games at least.
I love that, Jay.
Yeah,
love that pick.
That's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, and people forget that like Memphis has a history of being a very good Group of 5 team.
Yep.
This isn't like when the Mississippi schools play there. That's always a troublesome game for them, and I think that. To really highlight it, and we kind of talked about this with the ACC preview last week. Mike Norvell coming back to Memphis. Florida State has to play at Memphis. That game could get a little bit interesting. Apparently, there's a little bit of bad blood there for Mike Norvell, but it's. I like this Memphis team to win at least 10.
Okay, love it. Do we have any other Group of 5s?
I kind of like Tulane at 8 wins because the over-under is a 7.5. I just mentioned that I like the coach they brought in to replace Willie Fritz. The problem with Tulane is I think they have a very tough non-conference schedule. You get both Kansas State and Oklahoma. I see both of those as losses for the Green Wave. And that makes me sweat the 8 wins a little bit because I think they lose to Memphis. But I think this could easily be a 9-win team. Like I think Kansas State, Oklahoma, and Memphis are all losses, but I struggle to pick another loss after that.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have sleepers for the college football playoff. My first one, I don't necessarily know if it's a sleeper, but a team, again, not a lot of people talking about. I mentioned it before. Tennessee plus 170. Again, relatively easy schedule. I think they're 10-2. 10-2 SEC gets you in. I like Tennessee plus 170. I also like Utah plus 220 to make the playoff. And then here's another one. And especially if Iowa gets to 10 wins or potentially 11, Iowa plus 600. If some wacky things happen and Iowa is 10-2, there's a chance Iowa sneaks into the playoff. I don't know if Iowa necessarily gets in. However, I just think plus 600, that's some pretty good odds for you. So Tennessee plus 170, Iowa plus 600, Utah plus 220. I think those are also 3 decent levels of sleepers in there that you can make some money. Joe.
Yeah, well, we talked about Iowa. I already said Utah as well. I'm on those ones with you. I just said I like Liberty to win 11 games, possibly go undefeated, plus 440 for them to make the playoff. So if they go undefeated, they can't be left out. It's all in their own hands. So I love them at plus 440. I also like Oklahoma a little bit, plus 490. I think Oklahoma is going to impress some people. I think that there's kind of this idea they're going to come over to the SEC. They're going to struggle. I don't know. I think that they're going to win more games than people think. If they get lucky here, they win a couple of these big ones. I could see them sneak in. Like you said, Bama, Georgia, they're going to be duking it out with some really tough schedules. I think some of these other teams can sneak right in. So I love those ones there. And then I echo everything you said with Iowa. I love them at those odds.
Love it. Jake.
So I talked about Memphis already. They're plus 700. I think because they can get that group of 5 at-large berth, that they have a very good chance of getting in the playoff, especially at that value at plus 700. The other sleeper pick I'm going to go with NC State. I think the Wolfpack are going to be really good in 2024. And I think just the way the ACC schedule shakes out, they may kind of backdoor their way into that championship game. Plus 470 is the odds on the Wolfpack. Again, great value there. So those are my 2 sleeper picks for the playoff.
Very nice.
A lot.
All right. Last segment today. This is a first word. So, Joe, last year we did first word with people. Now we're going to do with programs. I'm going to name a program.
Oh, boy, I'm so nervous.
And you're going to say the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay. Can we not make this R-rated though?
Okay. All right. That was going to be my first question.
Yes. Not R-rated. PG-13.
We'll try to keep it to one word.
Okay.
Yeah. PG-13.
Nah.
PG-13. So easy one, Joe. Michigan State.
Disappointing. They've I mean, there's no other way around it. And as a fan, they've broken my heart the last couple of years. We need to get back to the glory. Disappointing.
Okay. Alabama.
Ooh, that one I would say, I'm going to say sunset, because out with Saban, in with the new. This is a program that the next 3 years are really going to determine what happens with this program for the next 10. So I'm really excited to see what happens.
Purdue.
Stinky. Purdue is going to be so bad. Listen, I know you are kind of a Purdue fan. I am not. I hate their guts. So I like seeing them lose.
Okay. Penn State.
Cult. You guys are a cult, and you know it. And listen, I know there's a lot of Penn State fans listening. James Franklin, he's a great coach for what he is. He'll never win the big one, obviously. We all know that, but he's he's good for what he is.
The best of the rest.
It's fun. It's funny that you picked that word, Joe, because next up, Texas A&M.
Yeah. Let's say promising. Like I said, we've already talked about A&M.
He got promising and I got Colt.
Now listen, if you did ask me the other way around, it would have been Colt for A&M, and then it would have been something probably totally different for Penn State. You're probably better off getting Colt, if we're being honest. But no, promise. I think A&M, like we said, they're the dark horse, man.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to the Big Ten. Ohio State.
Force. They are the force this year. It's Ohio State and the rest, I think.
Yeah. All right. We'll head to the ACC. A great national championship game between these two schools, Ohio State and this next one, Miami.
Oh, man. Let's say gray, because this is a team that I think I've bought into the last 3 years, saying this is when they're finally going to turn it around. What was the name of their quarterback?
Van Dyke.
Van Dyke. I believed in him so much. I think Cam Ward's going to do a really good job there, but they just live in this gray area right now. So
speaking of gray, I'm pretty sure the state color of Nebraska is gray, but that's the program that's up next, Nebraska. Exciting.
I am excited to see Matt Rule and what he does in Nebraska. This is a make or break year. It can't just be the same thing that they've done the last two. He's got to take a step up. I think they're poised to take a step up. I love their quarterback. I think he's going to be so much fun. I'm excited to see Nebraska football in the year 2024.
He is still a freshman, though.
I know.
Big rivalry game early in the year for Nebraska, and that's the next program on this list, Colorado.
Fraud. I'm done with Colorado. All right. I love Dion until I don't anymore. And he's kind of worn out his welcome with everything going on. And did you see Sanders talking about his offensive lineman while he's playing college football 25?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was
Travis Hunter, but still not.
Oh, was it Travis Hunter?
But they were playing with each other.
Either way, it doesn't matter.
Not good.
These guys don't. And then Dion today was like, if you touch Travis or you touch the quarterback, you're out of here. Like, oh my God. So
that was definitely So, and here's the thing, and Jay, I probably can almost certainly back this up. Like, our head coach would say some pretty inflammatory things if anyone were to come close to a quarterback. However, saying don't touch the receivers, I feel like is a little like
That's wild.
That's a little wild because like
I guess they're not playing press coverage.
Exactly, like press coverage or anything like that, staying on his hip. Now, granted, obviously you don't lay out receivers, or if he jumps up, you don't take him out in the air or anything like that. But like, stay away from receivers is a wild take.
You're getting your team ready to play teams like Utah this year.
Listen, North Dakota State.
You got to toughen up. Yeah.
North Dakota State is going to try and murder you.
Frauds.
Okay. Michigan.
Scumbags. Big time scumbags. All right. Listen here. No, we already talked about that. I hate them more than anybody else in the world. And I wish nothing good upon Ann Arbor or anybody that ever goes there, visits there, or even walks through there.
There you go.
I guess I shouldn't go visit Ann Arbor.
I wouldn't do it.
Last one.
There we go.
Last one. Yeah. I'll take it. I'll take it.
There we go.
Another program that you love so dear to your heart, Notre Dame.
We've already used frauds. We've already used scumbags. Let's use something different here. I'm gonna use 2 words. Wet paper. All right. Little paper mache Notre Dame this year. Listen, with their schedule, if they don't win 11 games, they have a problem. But no matter what, let me just tell you, if you're a Notre Dame fan, sit back real quick. Give me 1 minute of your time. I'm going to tell you how your season's going to go. You're going to win a ton of regular season games. You're going to complain, oh, these rules, we should be a top 4. We should get a bye. No, you shouldn't. Join a conference like a real team. And then what's going to happen is somebody's going to walk into South Bend in the first round of the playoffs, and they're going to beat you. All right. And that's your whole season. So that is, you're playing to host a game just to lose. Okay. So congrats, Notre Dame, on your 6th seed and first round exit. Okay.
All right. And with that concludes our episode with Joe Pops. Joe, like always, tell everyone where they can follow and subscribe to you.
Yep. On Twitter at Joey_props. Link in the bio. Subscribe. We ride. We're going to be doing, I think, giving out 7 days completely free. Listen, it's the best deal on the internet. $15 a month. You get every pick every week. We went on a tear last year. We went through 3 weeks straight doing a first touchdown round robin that if you just were $100 better, you would have been up $15,000 in 3 weeks. Is that worth $15 a month? I don't know. You tell me. But anyway, link in the bio. Subscribe. We ride.
And usually, listen, I tail Joe a decent amount, and I win some money. So I will say I can vouch that he's pretty good at what he does.
Love betting football, boys.
From all of us here at the Get Back Coach, have a wonderful